Welcome your faces back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit that like button and that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Can't thank you enough for the support. And we're here today, preview time. Carlton versus Richmond. The MCG Sunday Arvo 320. Round 16 fixture. In a fixture that really, I mean, like, for me, this fixture here is like a symbol of where we are. Like, it feels like forever since I've been here. Richmond Carlton is kind of that fixture that kind of is like the benchmarker for where you are. And it feels like for eternity, they have been a better side than us. Definitely the side when people talk about, oh, I don't like playing them. This is the side that I probably don't like playing. And 17th, Richmond plays with a 2-12 record, plays 10-4. Second on the ladder, Carlton. Carlton winning 4 of their last 5 on a 4-game streak. Richmond winning only 1 of their last 5. And it feels like the tables have turned. And I don't want to go into this because I planned this video and I was like, people are going to start doing all that shit, aren't they? Danger game, don't take them lightly and stuff. Please, as you watch this video, whatever I say, I am not taking them lightly. I am paying the numbers and the two teams the utmost respect, as I always do. But this is a game where there is really a culture and narrative shift that the Blues are the better football side. That is locked in. That is locked in. Even Richmond fans in the chat will admit the Blues are a better footballing side. And for me, that comes with a new little moniker here that traditionally when these two sides have played, especially when we were Barron and Pants, the games were always quite tight, particularly round 1 games were quite tight. There was always that show, but then there was always that level of skill Richmond possessed over us. And these are the games here. The last 5 the Blues have played, they've played strong opposition. And for me, I think that's probably easy to motivate yourself. I genuinely think tough teams like your Geelongs, your Essendons, they're easier to get up for in the terms of it. You've got something to lose should you lose it. I think these games here are the harder ones because everyone in the man in his stock is expecting you to win it. So I think this one here is, for me, a real culture shift to show that you can go from being the hunters to the hunted. And we know how important this game was for us when we were down where Richmond are on the ladder. So it's definitely one of these games here where your system was tested the last 5 weeks. Now your system has got to be implemented. You've got to ride the peaks and troughs. You've got to show that ruthless instinct because you know what, Richmond, they're no mugs. And let's get into the scoring breakdown. Why are we excited? Let's have a look at it then. So you can see from the stoppage count, one of the 5th heaviest scoring stoppage side versus the 2nd worst in the comp. You can see Carlton, obviously, this is a very general stat, this as well, that genuinely good sides do concede from stoppage. That's because poor sides generally try and focus their energies there. You can see the 12th least scored against in Richmond. Again, that plays into what I've just said there. Teams generally try and slow good teams down. That's what we did for many years. And that's the culture shift. But it's also a very interesting note that when you look at these stats, you want to see the scores from turnover for and against, because genuinely, if you're ranking high for scores for from stoppage and ranking high for scores against from stoppage, means your turnover game and them clearances aren't true ones. You see the differential there makes Carlton's 9th best in the league versus 12th best in Richmond. And the stoppage genuinely is a real tough one to see if someone's good or bad. But these are the nature of the beast. A lot of your traps are set from scrub clearances out of the stoppage and clearance area, which is what the Blues do. So that's a real interesting one. These are the really exciting stats for me. The turnover, you're playing the worst team in the competition versus the 3rd best, and Carlton are the hardest side to score against in turnover over the last 5 versus the easiest side to score against, making Carlton having the best 2nd turnover differential versus the worst. And this here is a real key component. You've got to remember that Richmond being 17th, they don't have as much of the ball as the Blues, which creates opportunity to turn over. That's a really interesting fact. And remember that little notice when we go and try and explain these stats. This is an area here that the Blues will try and exploit. but it does create its own problems. You see it in your own bowl sports. If a side is, Carlton have played sides that traditionally play a lot with the ball and play bold and industrious. Richmond are definitely going to try and slow Carlton down, try and slow the game down. And they don't want this game free-flowing. So with it not being free-flowing, genuinely you'll have less turnover opportunities because teams aren't going to try and go long. So this is a game here where the Blues will really look at that midfield pressure that we've been talking about, hurrying you up, trying to get the game going, not allowing them to slow and stagnate the ball. The Blues will be looking to try and light that match, which, if you go back to 2017, 2018, this was something Richmond were incredibly good at doing against us. It looked good for periods, but once they started to hurry us up and the pressure started to rise, that's where they ultimately undid us. So that's going to be an area there for the Blues to really just be mindful of, that you don't want this game to become a slugfest. You want this game here to be as free-flowing as possible. And the defensive half generation is a real exciting one again. Carlton, the second best scoring side versus the second worst, and also the 15th hardest team to score against. Sorry, the 15th, yeah, so what, 18, 17, 16, 15, what, the fourth hardest side to score against versus the easiest side to score against. And Carlton have the best differential from defensive half scores versus the second worst in the league. So this is an area here where the Blues will probably at times look to let Richmond come on in that midfield zone and try and get the ball in, because that is where they're really struggling. The Blues know the forward pressure will be good, and we want that ball coming in long into the midfield to create them turnover opportunities, because their defensive half generation is probably an area. So this really suits Carlton's forward half pressure, where it's early and then there's a blip and then the midfield is set up. So this is a really, really exciting stat, and a stat that the Blues will look at and go, right, okay, we need to execute here. We need to be really, really methodical with this, keep our pressure early, get them hurrying up, but the chances will come. So pressure here in the forward arcs is going to be really important. And obviously when you come to the next stats very shortly, you'll see why forward half generation, this is something that Carlton have strayed from. This was something that was top 4 opening couple of rounds, something that we started to see as Carlton sit back more and try and apply them traps. The 10th best scoring side from forward half generation versus the 15th. And against, again, 12th hardest, easiest side to score against the 4th easiest side to score against forward half generation. So this is where it flips. This is a real case of who the Blues have played. They're playing very good sides here. It will start to even out. And you can see Carlton have the 9th best differential versus the 16th. And again, stoppage and centre clearance. This is something, again, Carlton still, even though this isn't a primary focus, still rank quite high. And that is because of their makeup of teams, players in that centre bounce and stoppage. It's very hard to beat us, whether we're focusing on that or not, because their natural game is hard. And that is why, do you know what I mean, Carlton genuinely with that very underlap and trying to set them defensive traps. So why we're the 4th easiest side to score against in stoppage, in clearance, in centre bounces? Because of that. The Blues really play high up there. They want the kick, the scrub kick out of there, and really looking to do it. So it's a risk-reward basis. But the 16th best scoring side, so what, the 3rd worst pretty much from them. Pressure acts are really interesting. So generally when you look at pressure acts, it's a really interesting one, because you've got to look at how many disposals they have. Because obviously you can't lay pressure acts if you have the ball. So for Carlton to rank 8th is pretty impressive, considering that they've dominated games. And you can see here, we are one of the most pressured sides, which then links up to that. It's always good to look at these differentials, because you get a good picture of how the teams play. And what that means is Carlton have the ball, they're being hurried. But it's a very reassuring sign when you see your side there with pressure acts, because it means you handle pressure well when the results are good. So the Blues here are coming up against one of the worst sides in the league for applying pressure, and they're one of the best sides at handling pressure, the Blues are. So this is a really interesting one, and you can see here, these differentials generally do showcase that of a team that's losing will rank quite high. Carlton used to rank quite high on pressure differential when we were poor. It's not dissing Richmond, but obviously that's the nature of the beast. You can't apply pressure when you have the ball. Tackles, though, is really reassuring, because the Blues are 5th in the tackles, the most tackled side as well, versus the least tackled side, which is very interesting, I thought, and a big one here, one of the second worst side at applying tackles as well. Gives their differential, you know, the 8th best, Carlton's the 14th because obviously they face better sides, but also have more of the ball. But this is a real area here we just talked about. Carlton want to hurry them up. They want to pressure them. And Richmond genuinely have been pressured, not probably to the extent because teams have cruised at times against them, or they've been in them real tight seesaw fixtures, hence their differential being almost even. That's where the Blues have got to really focus their challenge, really do it. And you can see here one of the good side stats, tackles inside 50. You're looking to create them repeat entries. You're looking to put pressure on. The least tackling side inside 50, Richmond versus the 4th best tackling side, giving Carlton the 7th differential versus the 12th. And this is an area here where the Blues really do showcase very good ball movement because very similar to Richmond's tackles against, Blues having more entries and also Blues having more true entries and really looking to exploit space, showing a real key development because these stats were almost flipped 2-3 years ago when we used to do these previews. So this is a really exciting time to be a Blues fan because like Richmond for me is a game that just really sticks out. It's always the benchmarker. So let's go into marks inside 50. Carlton the 8th best marking side inside 50 for percentage of that I-50s. And we're playing the 14th. And you see here, Carlton, as we know, one of the harder sides below the AFL average when we play teams to be able to do it. We're one of the higher sides of marking inside 50 against Richmond. So this is going to be another case of Blues trying to keep Harry and Charlie separated. They've had a few backline injuries as well. And that is really a key to this win. If they can keep them deep as well, it allows you to stretch Richmond and create space in behind for Matty Owies, for Zach Williams and co. to really feast on. And that's what Harry did really well last week, really creating them leading pockets of space behind him by working really in the pocket to half forward, really doing them little leads, trying to keep a key defender always away. And when they're quite behind with key defenders at the moment, there's a few injuries, that helps the Blues out. See here, Carlton, the second most potent side from goals from their inside 50s versus the worst. And this really then creates them opportunities. They're very shallow entries with Richmond, very touchy at the moment because they are under injuries. They're quick entries, and that's where the Blues do feast with their rebound 50 rate. And you look at scores inside 50, Carlton second versus the 17th. So this is really a game here of getting them true entries, playing your game style. When you've got these disparities here, it's important that you don't buy into the game plan. And that's probably one of the areas Richmond will look at. They still have a bit of experience in and around the ball, so they can make it tough. Blues have got to really just back themselves in, back the game plan, get that overload that we see quite often, that overlap run. And they should be fine. They should be able to keep them at arm's length at all times. And that's where the Blues want to look for. Try and break the game open early. Make Richmond chase. And you'll be fine. Rebound 50 rate. You're looking at Carlton, the 6th best rebounding side versus the 16th. And you see there, look at that. Carlton, the second hardest side in the league to rebound against versus the second easiest. This is a real big area for the Blues. When they go into this, they'll know that when they can defend, this side is quite vulnerable. Richmond on the back half of the ground, the Blues are very strong. So this is an area here we know Tom Lynch, that they'll look to really exploit that. And I really expect to see Kemp, Newman, Sard and Whittaker probably again play really high up the ground, really look to take the game on, really try and separate space, funnel it centrally their entries, try and make it shallow and look to zip off the half-back line. This is a really interesting stat here because Carlton's defensive half generation has really been mirrored with their lack of intercept marking. They're looking to spot it, bring it to ground and play with the ball. They're not looking to stop, and that has kind of helped Carlton's rebound 50 rate. At times we get a little bit too methodical with the ball movement, a little bit overusing, and that's something that you've really showcased this. And Carlton, you see here, playing the side that has the most intercept marks against them, but Carlton still do have a few, and that's probably more the aim of that shallow entries. It is starting to come down. We have played top sides as well who rank very high in intercept mark metrics, but this is an area here that the Blues will look at, that although Richmond are superior in this avenue recently, even though Dylan Grimes is out, Carlton have got to look at that these stats can change in game. If you start pissing short entries all the time, there is a threat there, even though Carlton's numbers are all in their favour. Again, execute the game plan. As long as you stick to your game plan, there is no way Richmond can do it. Carlton are stronger side. And you look here, the one-on-one ratio, you're looking at the 5th best in the league defensively. We have the best one-on-one defender in the league in Jacob Whittaker versus the 14th best. So this is it here. Get it deep and stick to your game plan. So the key fundamentals here for Carlton to win this game are playing a high-up defensive line. Try and really condense that midfield and get them kicking to the midfield. Using your forward pressure to speed them up and hurry them up and create a little bit of dissension and panic in the ranks. And the Blues should be, well, will be okay, should that happen. Richmond here, they're looking to slow us down. They want to slow Carlton down. They want to try and get as many kick marks in the midfield as possible. They want Carlton to be slowing it down in the back half of the ground and starting to move methodically. They don't want to be spoiling. So it's going to be interesting how they use their tall players in this, because they are at a minority at the moment. They haven't got a lot of them there. So that's where the Blues have got to be really, really switched on. We ain't going to succumb to this. We're going to slow it down on our terms. We're going to dictate the play. They don't want it to become scrappy and laconic. And if that happens, that's where the Blues are going to have to go in to find that 3rd, 4th, 5th gear. The Blues want to here dictate the play. And that's what sides have been doing against Richmond, as you are when you're genuinely in a rebuild. So this is a real coming of age for the Blues against a team that has often dictated and been the metronome in tempo in the games. This is a new challenge for the Blues, where they've got to go in and just dictate the play. They've got to go and dictate the play and show that level of maturity. I think the Blues will win this one 5 goals comfortably. All respect to Richmond, though. They are a side that you've got to be wary of. But the Blues, on paper, this is the biggest time we've looked at it where we're like, okay, there's a gap in class. And I expect to see that ruthless execution. This is the next evolution of this side to really dictate and control games against sides that you should be doing it. They've done it against tough sides recently. Now it's a side where you really put that at arm's length and you say, we're Carlton, you guys are Richmond, this is where you are, and there's a gap on the ladder for the reason. Go Blues, can't wait to watch this one with you on Sunday. Peace, love and light. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella